order here on the David Tillis Show, which is all about local economy and the free market, where we explore the possibilities of improving ourselves, loving our neighbors, and buying local, believing that near is better than far, and small than big, and simple than complex. And down in the footnotes, personal better than corporate, and physical better than abstract. The number to call is 800-894-9. And my name is David Tillis. And I when I was having my breakfast this morning at Panera Posse, in which we men gather together over bagels and coffee, and we round up the bad guys, as we like to say, and put the money back in the bank on this Cash Friday. I had an encounter with a young woman, Kaitlin, who is a recruiter for Coca-Cola here. She goes around looking for people to hire. And she, high and low, she said she searches out good prospects for that company. And she was charged this morning under the texting statute, which applies to commercial operators. And so as I went out from my table there next to my computer, I was spending most of the morning there at that restaurant using the Wi-Fi and imbibing very good coffee. I went out there, photographed the officer about his business. He, of course, recognized me as the radio guy. First, he said, "Well, who are you?" I said, "Well, I'm just a citizen," and didn't have my press tag. And not that I needed it, of course. You, my listener, can video with your phone any police activity in public, right? There's no, you have an absolute right to video police activity in public. And so that's what I was doing. And he let me, he said, step back, as if somehow my silently clicking camera was offending him, but it really wasn't. And he was not too aggressive to me. And so after he left, I chatted with, I tapped on the window of the young woman and chatted with her. And what I offered was really a kind of consolation and explanation of what had happened. And I wanted to assure her that she was not a bad person, that it really was okay. And that the fact that she was in tears more than once is particularly striking to me. And the fact this routine encounter by an official from Governor Haslam is typical of why I have elections in their results in a kind of low view, and that is because you may have a Bill Lee at the top, but what's going to change? Well, my thinking is, of course, things do change when there's proper notice given, and we have a very clear and very liberal, I want to say, very liberal transportation law in Tennessee. It follows it follows the U.S. Code in Title 49 exactly. The U.S. Code in USC 49 is all about transportation, and its definitions control Tennessee's definitions, and its scope controls the scope of Title 55, the Tennessee Code for Transportation. And so I asked Kaitlin, I said, are you involved in carrying goods or people for hire? Are you involved right now in a commercial activity? Are you a for-profit user of the road? I said, is maybe that thing in the back seat there something that someone's paid you to carry from point A to point B? And she said, no. And I said, well, of course not. You're just a private user. And here you've been made subject to the commercial statute, which forbids anybody involved in transportation from using a text message on the phone for any purpose at all. You cannot use the texting function. So I said, well, as I explained this briefly to her, I said, well, you're the subject of a commercial business statute, but you're not in business, just as none of the other people in this parking lot here at the Panera bread store in Hickson are involved in business that I could tell. I mean, there may be some courier who's there for a coffee, and there I was in our fabulous yellow Hummer. That's not a business. That's not involved in transportation either, even though it has presumptively making it so. The tag on the back, which is the registration tag, which is a tax receipt. It has a tax receipt that it can be used in transportation, but it's not. It's not being used ever. And when I'm using it in transportation, so it is a private used vehicle, which has the capacity. Since I know we have a very rich economy, I may need to be involved in transportation at some point, that I would need to have that tag on the back and insurance, which of course that car has under the commercial statute, because it might need to transport somebody or something for hire on the roads. And so Kaitlin was inconsolable. It seems she was not able to be consoled easily, charged with the texting, driving under the texting statute. And she was there for 90 minutes. She was in the parking lot for 90 minutes. And I went out a second time and chatted some more with her, saying, I hope you're okay. And let me just talk about your situation. Let me hear from you, and let's chat a bit about your pink citation, your commercial citation from the THP, alleging that you texted while driving on Hickson Pike. And I said, well, ma'am, you've already made a major concession about your jurisdiction. You conceded that you were involved in transportation because you handed the trooper, a short man, nicely built, short, your driver's license, and you gave him proof of insurance and proof of your vehicle's registration, your car's registration as a motor vehicle, all of which again are the three transportation legs that are proofs of involvement in transportation. So you really you don't have anything to stand on there. So perhaps not having a legal defense, you may have a defense in the facts. And she said, well, I do. And I said, well, what are those, Kaitlin? Well, she said, tearing up again almost, that my phone has not rung or dinged from a text message coming in or going out. And I can consult with my phone provider for proof of that. And I said, well, that's what you should do. You dissent in the fact world from the narrative implied by the trooper's citation, and you simply give an affidavit stating that this is a true and accurate copy of the T-Mobile supplied record of your doings. In fact, you may get an advanced copy of your bill, and show that there was no texting around the time of the timestamp on that pink accusation, and that should be enough to have the thing easily dismissed. She was consoled by the discussion, and that was it was just discussion about her rights, that she can assert her rights in the fact area as well, less so perhaps in the area of law. And why are the results not as important as you might think? Well, it's because of Kaitlin, right? Kaitlin, the Coca-Cola recruiter, charged under the texting while driving statute. Of course, well, no. Listen, if you're the mom taking your children to the kindergarten this morning, and then you're going to run errands, you're not driving. Okay, you're traveling. You're only driving if you are moving these people for hire, for profit, in what's called an extraordinary means. That's driving and operating. If you're not doing that, well, then you have a defense, and the defense is that, well, I'm not actually driving. I'm just using the road as a private citizen. Now, the police are starting to understand this, because I've given notice to the governor, and every THP officer legally knows this. Okay, he legally knows this, though he may not personally know it. He legally knows it. He has a presumptive knowledge under the notice doctrine that there is a distinction between traveling and transporting. And here in Chattanooga, we have Mayor Burke has been notified of this, and the city attorney's office, and also Red Bank and Sheriff Jim Hammond. They've all been given notice about the scope of the statute, which is narrow. It's a narrow, very liberal statute that heeds the federal law. So proper enforcement against Kaitlin, proper enforcement against Malik Sanford, whom we also are chatting with, is under Title 55 and only upon people involved in transportation. And Malik, as he tells me, the phone company worker has these amazing shifts. Yes, he has 3 12-hour shifts per week plus some overtime. That gives you, that's under 40, but he gets the balance in on another day for a few hours, and sometimes he gets to go over with the phone company that he worked, a cell phone company here in Chattanooga. And he's not involved in transportation. So when he was arrested at the stoplight, he'd somehow put his car into park and had fallen asleep between two very long shifts, not enough dozing time between, not enough time really to deal with his daughter Malia 6 and Malik Jr. 10. He was just in very bad shape to go on the clock again. So I'm hoping he has enough caffeine. Maybe he should stop by Panera Posse on Friday morning and get some extra caffeine in him, joining me there for conversation and bagel at Panera Posse Friday mornings in Hickson. That's where I am. And you, my listener, if it won't be a big crowd because there's just a couple of us, and then there's you, my listener. That would make three. Okay, so 3 or 4 people can come together for some conversation, and that's what we do. We solve the world's problems, and we're doing that today, which is Cash Friday. Cash Friday, in which I bring into the scene my Ben Franklin, the C note. And on Cash Friday, my listener and I, we go to our bank and draw out, shockingly, we draw out a $100 bill or 250s. If you and I do it, there's no problem. But if you and I do it, and one more person, there may be dramatic phone calls made to the central bank in the Fed branch in Atlanta to bring up some cash, because there's hardly any cash in the system, so we don't want too many people to do that. Just 1 or 2 people to take the exercise of Cash Friday, where we pay in cash and we get cash out. Right? To pay in cash, you have to have cash, physical C notes, physical fractional reserve bank paper in your billfold, and your local economy provider, your Olive Branch Mediterranean, for example, would just love to have you come and pay cash, because after all, there's not the tapeworm tax. The credit card industry is the banking cartel's free money scheme, where on every transaction it can collect between 2 and 5%, which is a kind of rape of the economy. Because it doesn't cost that much to run that system at all, even though these companies may have thousands of people on phones there in their call centers to help you if you have a problem, right? The skimming of the economy by the credit sector is just gigantic. It's simply gigantic, and it's billions and billions of dollars. And that's how come these companies can afford all that advertising and all the freebies. Because they're strip mining, or skimming. Skimming is probably a better word in this case. Economic activity in Chattanooga. So Olive Branch would like you to pay in cash. I'm sure Olive Branch, Nick and Callie would be delighted to have you flash your plastic at them at Faye there at the cashier. But if you pay in cash, you save. You give a little bit extra money to your local provider, right? Pay your local outfit in green rectangles and the non-referential fractional reserve pseudo paper, and your lasagna will go down better, right? And that's the menu this evening at Olive Branch Mediterranean Deli and Market. Lasagna, turkey Provence, a Mediterranean cod, a red Argentinian shrimp with Greek spaghetti. That sounds like a dish for me. Jeanette, can we maybe go out tonight? Greek lemon chicken. And then for people who don't eat viands or viande, which is French for meat, they don't eat meat, the chickpea stew is there from Nick and Callie at Olive Branch Mediterranean Deli. That's Olive Branch Mediterranean Deli here in East Ridge. And do enjoy eating there as I have, David Toulis. Now, the election results are, I'm gonna say that they need to be tempered. Okay, you may be excited, you may be unhappy at the results, but 800-8949, 800-8949 here on the David Toulis Show. I'm trying to help you. I'm trying to help people. We were talking with Malik Sanford about his remedies, and Mike piped in to say, well, look, if you're involved in a criminal case, you have absolute right of discovery. And Mike was sending me and he had sent me a text message, and I'm going to check again to see if it is. I'm not getting it. I'm getting here. I think the criminal rules of court may be online, and they are. It's tncourts.gov. Go there and see what your rights are for discovery. So Malik has a right to have immediately delivered to him the video record of his arrest. He has a right to see all the documents, He has a right to have the personal contact information of all the officers, so he can depose them if he wants to. And there are other things that for which he has a right to have. Now, I think what I need to do here is address the main hurdle that you, my listener, have in your mind. And because you and I are fearful people, you and I are inexperienced in questions about courts and judges and DAs and prosecutors and cops milling around outside of court as they do. You think, oh man, this is something about which I know nothing. And I'm terrified. 800-8949, 800-8949. But we have elections, right? We have election results. Why? Because we're a free people. We are a free people in Tennessee. And as I tell Malik Sanford, I said, Malik, look, you represent your people in this matter. Okay, you've come to our attention, and therefore, because you have entered into our prophetic ministry, you might say, of notice, giving notice about what's happening in Chattanooga and Hamilton County, you represent your people. Okay, think about that. You represent thousands of men who happen to be men of color. Okay, let's just narrow it down a little bit to connect you with that body of people. And so you, Malik Sanford, cannot having that high role, that high call, say, well, I'm just going to compromise. I'm going to go into the kangaroo court of city court, where Judge Bean presides, or Sherry Patey is the other one. This is a corporation court that has authority to deal with ordinances, and I think you want to have the chance of having the people review the charges first. Which people are that, or are those? Well, those are the people of the grand jury. Have the officers and their handlers have their accusations go uphill to the people for review. They may say, there's no case here, we're throwing this out. Then your problem is solved. What everyone's tempted to do is what the public defender's office suggests, and that is, don't fight it. Probably the most convenient thing. The best thing would be just a plea bargain, and you'll get a fine, and something, you'll get probation, okay, something like that. But guess what? If you do that, you're going to have a mark on your name, Malik. You're going to have a mark on your name, as there are thousands and thousands of African-American people, especially African-American people, disproportionately represented in the group of people with blots and blights on their names because they plea bargained. And plea bargained when the accuser is wrong, right? The accuser is wrong. And the fellowship of the finger, which involves the officer and the state prosecutor, Neil Pinkston, they look out for each other, right? They look out for each other. And they are there to accuse you for something that is innocuous and harmless. And here's a question that I wish we could think about. What if Malik had been parked there, his engine running, and he had dozed off in a stoplight early Sunday morning? If the person stopping him had been a firefighter, what would have happened then? A firefighter on the city payroll too, right? Well, that man would have looked in the window and said, "Sir, are you okay? Are you in pain? Are you all right?" And there would not have been an evil consequence. But when the police come there to help the police, right, in their wellness check, you have an evil consequence. Cost here, $200 bond, $175 to get the car back that was dragged off by the city inspired record service. This is why I'm not too impressed about election results, because these things are happening here, and I'm mad. David Tulis.
3, 2, 1.
Chattanooga Radio. Digital FM 95.3 HD4. 92.7 FM's news now.